Welcome to Friday Night Sports Night preseason edition for WPIAL football. Chris Ransom joining me is Kyle Taylor, the man, the producer, who is going to help us set up Friday Night Sports Night. Will be in Monroeville for Gateway versus Woodland Hills in a few weeks. But this is our preseason special, and you'll be able to get t-shirts through Draft Utopia, the Utopia of Sports. We'll have that hooked up for you. We'll try to get some t-shirts of different schools, different things, but let's dive into the 3A preseason top 5 here. And at number 5, we'll get to our sleeper for this conference at the end. But at number 5, Keystone Oaks. They went unbeaten in conference play last year. And they're a team that they're expected to maintain their status quo. But this could be a down year. I mean, this is the weaker of the conference. You've got the Allegheny Conference and the Beaver Valley Conference. I mean, the Allegheny Conference is like the Big Ten, and Beaver Valley Conference is like the SEC in 3A football. I mean, there's no way to put it. I would love to see an Allegheny Conference team prove us wrong and step up to the plate here, but let's be realistic. The Beaver Valley Conference in 3A is like the SEC in college football. It is the dominant 3A conference, and Kyle Taylor's going to break down the next team in 3A.
Next team, maybe one of the biggest powerhouses in AAA, and that's Central Valley. I mean, they've been there, done that. You know, they've produced a lot of great talent over the years. Jordan Whitehead being one of them, maybe the best talent they've ever produced at that school. The school hasn't been around for too long. It's been around, 10 years or so?
Yep.
And, so they're still scratching the surface, but I like them at 4. They could rise up, by the end of the year to even higher ranking. So we're going to start them at 4.
Number 3, leave it to Beaver. Not Beaver Falls, Beaver. And Beaver is actually ranked second behind Aliquippa on Max Preps for their preseason rankings in the 3A conference. But we have them at number 3. They didn't get to Heinz Field. You got a shot to get to Heinz Field this year, though. And if you do, you'll move up in our rankings. Thanks for playing, Beaver. Number 2.
Number 2, the biggest powerhouse in AAA, and that's Aliquippa. We did not put them at 1. They got shocked last year's title game to Beaver Falls, and so we can't put them at 1, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're back at Heinz and they walk away going on to the States.
All right, at number 1, the defending champion, Beaver Falls. They're actually number 3 on Max Preps. They could end up having a bit of a stumble this year, especially if they lose to Aliquippa and Beaver. But they are the defending champs right now, so we'll give them their respect. We'll give them their love. I don't know if they repeat. Do you think... I feel like it's going to be Aliquippa over Beaver this year. But for right now, Beaver Falls has earned the right to be the number 1 ranked team in the WPIAL. Any thoughts on this year with 3A before we get to our sleeper? I feel like it's Quippa's year.
I think I think my title prediction is Central Valley Aliquippa.
Interesting.
At Heinz Field.
So you've got Aliquippa winning over Central Valley. I've got Quippa over Beaver.
Yeah.
All right. And the sleeper to look out for in 3A before we get to the 4A rankings is Quaker Valley. They are the high school by Mario Lemieux's house, and I drove there once for a driver's ed class. So Quaker Valley, they're the sleeper in 3A this year. Let's take it over and let's break down 4A, Kyle. Who's our number 5 team?
Our number 5 team is Joe Montana's alma mater, Ringgold. I believe some have them ranked a little bit higher, but we're going with 5. It's kind of a wide open quad A class this year, but I mean, to start it off, we got Ringgold at 5.
Yeah, Ringgold actually is ahead of Newcastle in the rankings, but we'll get to them in a bit. South Fayette, they went unbeaten in the regular season last year before losing to Newcastle, so they come in at number 4. If they'd won a playoff game, they'd probably be in the top 2 or top 3, but they didn't. They gotta step up in the playoffs when it matters in the WPIAL, so we'll see what happens. But South Fayette's number 4 for now.
My sleeper coming in at number 3 is West Mifflin. I think, look out for, the Fighting Kennywoods. They have a lot of talent coming back this year, and, I think that they are going to Heinz. I think they might even be punching their ticket to States this year.
Yep. Newcastle comes in at number 2. Marcus Hooker, the little brother of Ohio State corner Malik Hooker that was drafted by the Colts. He's entering his senior year at Newcastle. They went to Heinz Field. They went on a big run last year. Despite not the best regular season, they were one of the lower seeds, and they still managed to make it as a 7 seed or 8 seed. So look out for Newcastle. They enter the year as our number 2 team. And number 1, the defending champions, head coach, first defending champions, Thomas Jefferson. They had a perfect season last year. Go ahead and tell us about Thomas Jefferson.
Well, I mean, there's so much to say about Thomas Jefferson. They're always up there at the top. Great head coach, defending champion. I believe they won the state championship last year too, didn't they?
Yeah, I believe so.
So, they're always going to be there. They're always going to at least be on their way to Hines. So,
do you want to tell us about our sleeper for 4A?
Yeah, our sleeper, the Fighting Planets out of Mars. They had a great year last year in the regular season. They couldn't get it done, though, in November. But, I wouldn't be surprised if they're back with another great regular season. They got a tough schedule, but, always a contender out there in 4A.
I'm going to say it's Thomas Jefferson over Newcastle, but I got a feeling you're going to take West Mifflin over Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I'm going to go West Mifflin over Thomas Jefferson. I just like West Mifflin this year. There's something about them. Something in the water up there in West Mifflin.
Absolutely. And now we get into the 5A rankings, folks. Number 5, the Gateway Gators. They'll be one of the 2 teams we'll be covering in our opener on August 25th. And they got a returning quarterback back. I've just watched his tape, 6'3", 180. He's a dual threat guy, so Walker's a pretty impressive quarterback. And I think they're poised to make a run this year, depending on what happens. Kyle, tell us about our number 4 team. We'll be covering them on September 1st.
Yeah, our number 4 team will be there when they played North Hills, and that's Upper St. Clair. Coached by Jim Render, a powerhouse. They're always there, always very well coached, always fundamentally sound. You can always pencil them in to be right up the top of whatever class they're in. They're in 5A now, below to 5A. Wouldn't be surprised if they make a run to Hines, but, we're starting them at number 4.
Number 3, Woodland Hills. They have a lot of talent returning. They didn't get to the state title. They got swept by West Allegheny twice. And this is sort of a 2A, 2B situation with the next school that Kyle's going to mention. But they came in at number 3 for now. But this team was a team that we initially had at 2. Max Preps actually does have them at number 2 behind the number 1 school, who is our number 1 school as well. But Woodland Hills at number 3 for now. Kyle, go ahead and tell us about the number 2 team, last year's runner-up.
Number 2 is my dark horse to win this 5A title, and that's McKeesport. Came within a point of winning it last year. West Allegheny, it seemed to just roll through everything but McKeesport, and they needed the luck of the draw. They needed a couple lucky calls. I'm not gonna sell West Allegheny short, but McKeesport, in my opinion, I thought should have won the 5A title last year. So we got McKeesport at 2.
And number 1, West Allegheny. They have so much talent returning. First-year head coach Matt Miller got them to a perfect season. They're number 1 right now as a result of that. But I feel like this is up in the air. I'm going to go out on a limb and say we get Woodland Hills over McKeesport this year.
I'm going to say West Allegheny and Upper St. Clair. Ain't picking the winner yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if Upper St. Clair and Jim Render gets another WPIAL title.
Our sleeper this year is the school we're going to be covering the Upper St. Clair game at on September 1st. North Hills.
Yeah.
We hate them. They're a rival school district, but we got to respect them. They're doing awesome things down there up in North Hills.
Yeah, the program's on the way back. That's what I'll say. They've been down for the last few years, but I think 5A is a good fit for them. It's unfortunate they won't be able to play North Allegheny anymore, one of the best rivalries in WPIAL history, but it's the way it is. They got plenty of great competition to feast off of in 5A.
Yes, and with 6A, we have 2 sleepers. We'll get them out of the way because this is one Kyle and I were sort of debating on before we get to the top 5, just to build up that much more suspense. My sleeper in 6A is going to be Penn Hills. 27 returning starters out on their 79-man roster. They are number 4 in max preps behind Central Catholic, Pine Richland, and Bethel Park. And they're ahead of North Allegheny and Seneca Valley, who both made the semifinals for 6A last year in the WPIAL. So Penn Hills is going to be my sleeper this year. Kyle, go ahead and tell people about your sleeper.
My sleeper is going to be Mount Lebanon. I think they got some returning stars. I think they have a loaded junior class, so they got a lot of guys coming back from their sophomore year. So they do have experience. I think I'm not saying they're going to Hines, but I do think that they can wreak a little havoc, maybe win 6 ball games this year.
I definitely think they're a team that could make the quarterfinals, perhaps even the semis.
I agree.
Let's look at number 5, Bethel Park. this is a team that actually is number 3 on Max Preps, but I just don't see what's so special about them. But they do open up with North Allegheny and Pine Richland. They get both of those teams at home. So home field is something that really works well in Bethel Park's favor. So if they can get some early wins against NA, Seneca, they can get some wins against Pine Richland and North Allegheny, look out. I mean, their only road game is at Seneca Valley. I don't think they play Central Catholic until the playoffs this year. So that puts Bethel Park in a position where they can benefit from their schedule.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people have been saying this Bethel Park team reminds them of the 08 Bethel Park team. I think that lost in the state title game in a heartbreaking overtime game. So a lot of people are saying this kind of reminds them of that team. So we'll see.
Yeah.
And our number 4 team is the team who came out of nowhere and finally made it to Hines last year. That's Seneca Valley. They, I think they are losing their quarterback, but they have a ton of kids on the team. I think the culture is being built there. They're doing a good job trying to build that program up. The school keeps growing. You know, it's only a matter of time until they step up there and meet with the North Alleghenies and the Pine Richlands.
Yeah, Seneca Valley actually has quite a nice stadium. I ran track in that stadium once, and Seneca Valley, they beat NA on a field goal. And I remember when I was at North Allegheny, our bus driver, her kids went to Seneca Valley, and she talked about how awesome Seneca Valley was. Yeah. And some of the kids hated her when NA played Seneca Valley. They respected her. They treated her with respect. But they were all pissed off when NA would play Seneca Valley. It made for a great rivalry, fantastic entertainment.
I think Seneca Valley could be NA's next rival now with North Hills going.
Yeah, them and Pine Richland are the two schools. And speaking of NA, our school at number 3, they come in at number 3. We don't want to look too biased, but you can argue they're easily the second best team after the top 2 teams, depending on what happens with Pine Richland this year. But what are your thoughts on North Allegheny?
I mean, they're always up towards the top. You know, they're always going to bring a very fundamentally sound team, great coaching by Art Walker. You know, they're very consistent every year in, year out. You know, I think, the 2 teams that we have them behind, I think they could beat those 2 teams possibly.
And they get both of those teams at Newman Stadium to top that off. Pine Richland and Central Catholic are in our top 2, but North Allegheny gets both of those teams at home, and Coach Walker, like you said, he had ties to Central Catholic before he came to North Allegheny. So the roots are there, and people have been waiting for years for a WPIAL matchup between Central Catholic and North Allegheny at Hines Field, where Coach Walker faces his former school at Hines Field. People have been waiting for that for years, like with the Rodgers versus Brady Super Bowl in the NFL. It's eventually going to happen. I think it's going to happen at some point. Might be this year, so look out. North Allegheny at 3, but they can easily move up to number 1 if they win those 2 home games. And number 2, Pine Richland.
Well, the best player in the WPIAL, Pine Richland.
Phil Jerkovic, the quarterback, and we have him at number 14 on our Draft Utopia High School rankings. We've had the top 30 players up on the site at the moment. We're going to try to get to top 100 for football and basketball, but we have Jerkovic at number 14 as the 14th best player in the country, so that's why Pine Richland is at number 2. They did make it to they won the state championship before Jerkovic became the quarterback. They got to the semifinals in 2015 where they lost to Penn Trafford, and then Jerkovic was supposed to be that guy last year. He got injured, season-ending injury, so Pine Richland at number 2, but Jerkovic's health is going to be the key here.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll be at Pine Richland Stadium a couple times this year.
Yeah, on the September 29th, we've already got that game booked versus Central Catholic, and we're going to see them again on the 27th at North Allegheny. So, and number 1, Central Catholic. There's a few Central Catholic games on our schedule that we could go over. I think we're going to see them on the 22nd against Seneca Valley at Central Catholic. We're going to see them at Pine Richland. We're going to see Central Catholic 3 times on the 8th, the 22nd, and the 29th. So we're going to get a very good idea of what Central Catholic can do. They're the defending 4A champions before they did the 5A, 6A realignment last year, and they won in 6A. So they're the 2-time champs. Even if this is the second year of 6A, they're technically 2-time champs because they won 4A before the realignment, and then they won 6A. So they're 2-time champs as far as I'm concerned. So they're the team that should be at number 1 right now, even though Max Preps does have Pine Richland at number 1.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. I think they have Pine Richland as the better player, but Central Catholic is the better overall team. They've been there. They've done that. Pine Richland is Bill Jerkovic's got to get to Hines Field. Terry Taunton, he's been to Hines Field numerous times. I like Central Catholic to win the WPIAL and win the state like always.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Central Catholic and North Allegheny. It's going to be a close game. I'm going to go 2017 Catholic in overtime, but I think Pine Richland could be lethal as well. It's going to be an interesting year, to say the least.
Yeah, I agree. I like a sleeper finding their way to Heinz Field to play Central Catholic and then getting steamrolled in the title game.
So somebody like Bethel Park gets to Heinz Field and then they lose 50 to 7.
Bethel Park or maybe a Penn Hills or something like that.
Bethel Park, Penn Hills, Mount Lebanon. One of them gets to Heinz Field and then they get slaughtered 50 to 7.
Exactly.
All right, so that does it for our WPIAL special here with Chris Ransom and Kyle Taylor. We'll see you guys on August 25th for the first edition of Friday Night Sports Night between Gateway and Woodland Hills. And then if you enjoy our football segments, we'll continue this in December with basketball because we do have some basketball rankings up as well. So we definitely have some things. You can like us, subscribe to Draft Utopia on YouTube, and peace out. We're the Utopia of Sports. We'll get an audio file for this with logos for the high school teams as well as the full video version if you want this version as well. So we'll have 2 different ways to air this. And thanks for tuning in. Enjoy your WPIAL football teams this upcoming season.